The former Clemson and OU defensive coordinator touching down in a private jet in Norman just before 10 o'clock tonight.
It's about the time invested, because without that, it's not real.
You are listening to The Review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of The Review. It's the Online Sports Guys College Football Podcast featuring us, the Online Sports Guys. This week, you only got two of us at least to start off. That's me, OSG Phil. That's him, OSG Nelson. We're hoping for another episode of Wilkie's World, a little later in the show. But even though it's just the two of us, we got a lot to talk about, folks, because it's that time of year. It's bowl season.
Bowl season.
Yes, that's right. It's the time of the year where ESPN gets to fill their programming schedule with lots of meaningless games played in the middle of the afternoon in faraway places between teams that went 6-6.
Yes, that is true.
But not that I'm being cynical or anything like that. But
sarcasm font available, yes.
John, we might as well jump in, but I do want to say before we get into this, there are a few other things that we do want to talk about on the show, and we'll get to them in the second half. Some news, some coaching carousel news as some changes are upon us, and some new faces and new places, and a few other news and notes. We'll get to that in the second half, but we'll jump in with the bowl games because, quite honestly, come Friday, December 17th, we're in the bowl game season full on because it's time for the Bahamas Bowl.
Yeah, baby.
Middle Tennessee and Toledo playing in Nassau.
Hey, well, and you know, it's a shame, frankly, that the TV crews, I mean, now in years past, I mean, and this is before COVID-19, that the game was called remotely. The game has always been called remotely, as best as I can remember, from Thomas Robinson Stadium, the track stadium that they have there in Nassau. They're calling it from a studio in Bristol, Connecticut. And I think the only person that had been there in the past is the sideline reporter. The sideline reporter is the only person that actually went to Nassau, play-by-play in color, called it out of Bristol. But yeah, noon on Friday, it's Middle Tennessee and Toledo. And, you know, if you dig it, then you dig it. I will. It'll be on in the room. And just to see tens of people watching Middle Tennessee and Toledo going at it on ESPN. But once again, that means that it is your bowl season.
I guess if you're a fan.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You're looking for a long weekend. I can think of worse places to go than Nassau in the Bahamas, especially in the middle of December.
Absolutely.
And you're from Toledo. Granted, the Rockets were 5-3 in their conference, 7-5 overall on the season. Not a terrible season.
No, but
not a great season. They were third in the Mid-American West.
Yeah.
And their reward is a trip out to the pseudo-Caribbean. I guess it's not really technically the Caribbean because it's about 90 miles east of Miami.
Right, yeah.
So that doesn't really count. But hey, bowl game is a bowl game.
The cool thing in this for all of this, at least for me, is the reveal. You know, like when you're sitting there and you're a team that's kind of trying to figure out where you're going for bowl season, and then the coach comes up with the big reveal of, okay, so where are we going? And then all of a sudden the one from the Bahamas pops up, and the guys go absolutely berserk because A, they're going bowling, and B, they're going to the Bahamas for a bowl. I mean, that the reveal is part of the dynamic for me in all of this. And so
free stuff.
It is. Well, it is. It's true. And Toledo comes in as a 10-point favorite as we're talking right now. over Middle Tennessee. And so I know a lot of folks are sitting there and looking at this as being a game probably in the mid 30s, something like that. So if you're getting Toledo in the mid 30s, Middle Tennessee with a couple of scores on the board right now, if you're into your Christmas candy side dish, whatever you want to call it, I mean, in a confidence pool, Phil, where would you put this one?
I'm thinking if you go on a scale of 1 to 5 candy canes, because we are going into the holiday season.
Correct.
I would probably put this as a 1.5, because we can't forget that Middle Tennessee, despite the reward of getting to go to Nassau for the holidays, or on December 19th anyway, they did finish pretty much exactly in the middle of everything. 4-4 in Conference USA, 6-6 overall, 4th place in the Conference USA East standings.
Yeah.
Statistically, they're about as generically average as it comes. So, yeah, I'm thinking 1.5 at best. Unless you're a fan of one of these two teams or you got a lot of time on your hands, there's really not much of a reason to watch this game.
Nope. Toledo's a minus 417, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. Middle Tennessee State is a plus 301.
The other game on Friday the 17th is a little bit more interesting. The Tail Greeter Cure Bowl.
The Tail Greeter Cure Bowl.
Featuring Northern Illinois and our good friends from Coastal Carolina. Grayson McCall and company goes to the Cure Bowl.
Okay, so Tail Greeter, if you go to tailgreeter.com, connecting you with the best tailgates at every game. And of course they are.
Sorry, I had to go look up and see where this is. It's in Orlando.
Yeah, it's the Cure Bowl that's the predecessor to every other Orlando bowl game. So when you go to about, when it comes to Tailgreeter and tailgreeter.com, here's what it says. The idea of Tailgreeter was born after brothers, co-founders, and fans of the tailgate experience, Nick and Mirko, stumbled on the problem of how hard tailgating could be while trying to plan a road trip to Alabama. The idea was simple. Create a marketplace that would give fans access to great tailgates everywhere they go. Instead of having to tailgate on their own, fans could join together with a group of people who are already out there. And
okay,
there's like a 9-paragraph essay. What can Tailgreeter do for me? It makes both hosting and attending tailgates easier with technology and collaboration, easy access tools, and community. So this is from Nick in his message to anyone who goes to tailgreeter.com. Once you're out in the parking lot, everything's going on in the rest of the world seems to disappear. The goals of Tailgreeter very quickly became obvious. Tell the stories of these amazing tailgate hosts to anyone willing to listen. Make tailgating more accessible everywhere by giving fans the opportunity to tailgate together instead of trying to do it themselves.
Dude, this is entirely too much stuff. I don't need to know all this.
Help amplify the charitable efforts going on. It's like, and I'm trying to figure out what they do. I'm trying to figure out what they do. And I guess they might be a tailgate broker of experiences. I have no idea. And if you've got the money, if you Nick and Mirko have the money to sponsor a bowl game, more power to you.
Anybody can sponsor a bowl game. We'll get to that here in a few minutes. The two teams, Coastal Carolina, did not win the Sun Belt this year. They came in third, but they had a good season. A little bit of dinged up over the course of the year with a couple key players that got injured, including McCall. And the Huskies enter the game as your MAC champions after beating Kent State in the conference championship game 41-23. This one at least has a little bit of intrigue going for it. I mean, the Huskies had a good season. They finished 9-4 overall, 6-2 in their conference.
Yeah.
Coastal, we know about.
Yeah.
A solid program that has gradually improved each and every season under Jamie Chadwell. If I had to watch one of the early games, this might be one worth watching. I give this one at least 2.5, if not 3 candy canes.
Coastal Carolina is a 9.5-point favorite. They requested a trip away from Myrtle for their bowl game, and of course,
good for them.
And ESPN and ESPN Events complied, Heavy favorite against them. Only Alabama Cincinnati has a larger spread this year, and Toledo and Middle Tennessee that kind of snuck up around the end there. But yeah, so I've got to go with Coastal in this one. And if you're looking at your juice boxes, Coastal once again is north of minus 415. Northern Illinois is about a plus 305.
We got 7 bowl games on Saturday, the 18th.
7.
Starting off at 11 a.m. on Saturday when Western Kentucky plays Appalachian State in beautiful Boca Raton, Florida in the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl.
Roofclaim.com.
I'm guessing that it's some sort of roof repair company.
Let's find out, shall we?
I could be wrong.
Roof
We
Claim.
know Apple.
Best in roofing. Let's see. There's no guesswork. It's a website and an app. No guesswork or gambling when you choose roofclaim.com. We have a stellar reputation, a rock-solid process, and an industry-leading guarantee. Fast, accurate, free roof inspections. Manage your project from beginning to end. A 5-star reputation in the roofing industry. Communicating with your insurance company, we only use top-rated roofing installers, and our $1 million guarantee protects every new roof. That is roofclaim.com. Maybe the players get new roofs?
Yeah, I think after you just read that, we need to get paid by them as for the promo.
I think so.
Western Kentucky and App State. We know App State, another Sun Belt team. They finished runner-up this year to Louisiana. Good season for the Mountaineers, who are always dangerous, and a tough out for everybody that they play. I got to go look up Western Kentucky, though, because I don't remember how good their season was, and I did not have a chance to do too much.
Western was 8-5, and they were first in Confusa East.
Yeah, 8-5 overall, not bad. They unfortunately did not win the Confusa. They lost their rematch with Texas San Antonio, 49-41 in the conference championship game. But this is a game that I think if you got a game where you want to take the over, this is a good one to take the over.
Bailey Zapp was MVP of Conference USA after a vote of 14 league coaches who tabbed Texas San Antonio running back Sincere McCormick as Offensive Player of the Year. And I've got to go. See, this one for me, I'm torn because this one is once again within the margin of error when it comes to juice boxes. App State's a minus 149 favorite. Western Kentucky's a plus 122. And right now you're looking at 2.5. And so within the margin, I'll go with App State here, although I think your play's a better one with the over.
Yeah, I think so. I like Western in this one. The second game of the day kicks off at noon. The Cricket Celebration Bowl here in Atlanta, home base of the OSG sports team, South Carolina State, and the Jackson State Primetimers. Good matchup.
I've got to go with Jackson State here with what Dion has been able to do there with that program this year and turn them around quickly to get them in the Celebration Bowl. I think that this one is going to be a bit of a coronation for what Jackson State has been able to do this year. And I know that with all the health problems that Coach Prime has had this season, he said he wants to take one step on the floor at Mercedes-Benz to help out in his recovery. And I know that it'll be an interesting homecoming for Coach Prime, but I've got to go with Jackson State.
Yeah, I like Jackson in this one too. His personality, him just being Deion Sanders has done wonders for that program. They are on the road back in a team that, to be honest with you, a team to look out for here over the next couple seasons as Coach Prime continues to bring in some recruits. I like Jackson State in this one as well.
Yeah.
Moving on, a little later in the afternoon, the PUBG Mobile New Mexico Bowl played in beautiful New Mexico.
You had it right first.
UTEP and Fresno State.
Okay. Interesting. Oh, it is a game that apparently you play on either your mobile phone. Yeah, it literally is a game. PUBG Mobile, the original Battle Royale, the first one and the best. You can download it. YouTube.
Sorry, kids, we don't speak video game very well, so we didn't know that.
Nope. It literally, PUBG Mobile is a Battle Royale mobile game created by Lightspeed and Quantum Studios, so more power to you.
I like seeing UTEP in a bowl game just for the simple fact that over the last few years, this is a program that's really, really struggled to be respectable.
Yep.
But they have become just that. They went 7-5 on the season, kind of finished in the middle of the pack in Conference USA West standings. But I like it. I don't know that this is going to be a game that'll be on a lot of people's radar, but this might actually be an underrated game because Fresno had a pretty good season too.
Yep, Fresno is a minus 476, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. UTEP is a plus 343. And looking at the numbers, it looks like Fresno is an 11-point favorite going into this one. And I'm inclined to agree. I think that Fresno probably covers that 11 going up against Texas El Paso. So I'll go with Fresno in New Mexico in the Battle Royale video game.
Fresno's put up a lot of points over the course of the season, one of the better offenses in Division I, and they finished at 9-3 in the Mountain West.
Got it.
So, hey, Jeff Tedford coming in to coach. The Bulldogs lost their coach to the University of Washington in the part of the coaching carousel that we haven't really gotten too much into.
Yep.
But look for this to be one of the better games of the day, I think, despite the location. I still don't understand how we're getting a bowl game there, but hey, what do I know?
Well, I think it's basically a promotion for the travel and tourism industry for the state of New Mexico, and a video game is helping sponsor it just in time for the Christmas season.
Yeah, moving on, we got the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl. 3:30 kickoff in Louisiana. BYU and UAB, the Akron game.
Yes.
We know BYU's had a good season. I've actually seen them play in person. Good football program. They managed to stay in the upper part of the top 10 all season long. UAB, a little bit of a struggle this season. They weren't as good as they have been the last couple of seasons, but Bill Clark's an excellent coach and has had a lot of success with UAB. This one also has the potential of being a pretty interesting game. Maybe not the offensive fireworks that you're looking for, but if you like a good hard-fought battle, this may be it.
Yep, right now you're looking at BYU at a minus 286. UAB is at a plus 220. And your numbers in this one looks like BYU is a 6.5-point favorite. I think that sounds about right. It wouldn't surprise me if UAB covered, but your information about Radiance Technologies, they are 100% employee owned, based in Huntsville, Alabama. And get this, I saw this and I was like, you've got to be kidding me, but no, you're not. Radiance Technologies provides intelligence analysis and warfighter support to the intelligence community and Department of Defense to enable effective military operations and protect our troops from harm. RadianceTech.com.
In other words, they're a civilian military advisor.
Specializing in intelligence analysis of threat systems across the land, sea, air, and space and cyberspace domains.
Interpret that as you will.
Moving
on a little later in the afternoon, we've got the Lending Tree Bowl featuring Eastern Michigan and Liberty. We know about Liberty. Malik Willis, one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Eastern Michigan, we probably don't know as much about, but they had a good season. Another one of the directional Michigan schools, went 7-5 on the year. Didn't really get them too far in the Mid-American West Conference or division because almost everybody won at least half their games there. But I like Liberty in this game. This one, again, you probably got to be a fan of one of these programs to even tune in.
Yep.
But stranger things have happened.
Liberty is a 9-point favorite. As you and I are talking, I think Liberty covers. I think that the over is probably, once again, an easier / better play when it comes to this game at Ladd Peebles in Mobile, Alabama.
And then the game with the name that makes will make you understand that just about anybody who wants to put their name on a bowl game can do it.
Yep.
It's the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl, presented by Stifel.
I think it's Stifle, but okay.
Utah State and Oregon State. I don't know if which of the Jimmy Kimmel characters will be there for this one.
I imagine all of them will be, and it will end up being something of a work. But Stifle is a wealth tracker. It is an app where you can manage your financial life, aggregate, organize, and plan.
Good for us. We're getting all the promos in. That game on ABC that Saturday night. Interesting.
Hey, that way it covers up your primetime lineup, and it gets you all the way from 7:30. You kick off at 7:38, 7:40, and elongated halftime gets you right to 11 o'clock. Your Saturday primetime is done.
Utah State had a good season. Surprising quite a few teams. If my computer will boot up here, 10-3 this season under Blake Anderson. Solid production. They beat San Diego State soundly in the Mountain West Championship game. So we're talking about a serious contender here.
Yeah,
a contender.
Oregon State is a 7-point favorite. Jay Norvell did not take part in Coaching Carousel and stayed at Utah State. I've got to go with Oregon State in this one. You're looking at juice boxes with Oregon State a heavy favorite at a -294 in the composite. Utah State is a +2.25.
And then there's the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl, traditionally the host of the Sun Belt champion, and this year is no different, as the Louisiana Raging Cajuns square off with Marshall. Another decent matchup. This is usually an entertaining game, and how can you beat a chance to spend the weekend in New Orleans?
Exactly. As someone who has seen this bowl game between Troy and North Texas, I know exactly the dynamic in play here.
As we said, the Raging Cajuns had a good season. They've lost their coach. Billy Napier has moved on to the University of Florida, although props to Mr. Napier for sticking around for the conference championship game.
Yep.
Not everybody does that. The Thundering Herd, they also had a decent season. They were 7-5 overall, 5-3 in Conference USA's East. A good offensive program that struggled a little bit on defense. I like Louisiana because essentially you're talking about nearly a home game for them.
Yes.
Lafayette in just a couple of hours from New Orleans.
And
so we'll go with the Raging Cajuns, and I might have to do that because if I don't take them, I will hear about it forever since my wife is an alumni.
There you go. I was buried the lead there. Yeah, Louisiana's a 5.5-point favorite, and I think that they'll cover. I think it's basically, as you say, it's almost like a home game for Louisiana with everybody coming down to watch this one in New Orleans. Hey, when you give folks from the northern end of the state a chance to come down and participate and party a little bit, go hang out on a Saturday night in New Orleans, you're going to do it. I think that New Orleans will host obviously both of these schools very, 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 very well. I've got to go with Louisiana in this one. I think they cover that 5.5. Marshall is a +171 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, and Louisiana is a -217.
John, I think we got through the first week of bowl game mania, or whatever you want to call it, depending.
Sounded good to me. It sounds like a good sponsor.
Yeah, I think this is a good spot for us to toss it over to Wilkie's World, where Brother Wilkie will give his thoughts on the bowl games, maybe a little coaching carousel information and opinion. Toss it over now to Brother Wilkie. Tell us what you got, my friend. Perhaps on Spreaker or Stitcher or Spotify,
SoundCloud,
or Apple Podcasts, or Google Play, any of those places. That's where we are.
That is
Just
correct.
look up OSG Sports. You'll find us. You can find us on the web, theonlinesportsguys.com, our website, at OSG Sports on Facebook, and Twitter. John, of course, is flashing up the phone, which means ding, 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 ding. We have a phone app. Look up at OSG Sports on the at the App Store on Apple Play, or App Store and Apple Play. That's not correct. I just joined two different things.
Go to the App Store. If you've got an iPhone, go in that direction. If you've got an Android, download the app that way. You can download the app. It's available for both kinds of phones, iPhones, Androids. Go to Google Play as well if you want to put it on, maybe, and the Apple Store if you want to maybe put it on your laptop too.
John, what do you say we take a break here? We are almost out of breath after going through the long and lengthy list of bowl games.
And we're just getting started in week one.
Week one of bowl season. When we come back in the second half of the show, we're going to talk a little bit about some coaching carousel moves, because there are some big moves yet again this week, and a little bit about the Heisman Trophy vote that happened this past weekend as well. That and more when we come back for the second half of the review. You're listening to The Review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Enter the carousel. This is the time of renewal.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Thanks for sticking around, everybody. You have made it to the second half of the show. The first half of the show we spent talking about bowl games, because that's the most clear and present danger for those of you following college football. As we move on to the second half of the show, we got to talk about the carousel.
We do.
A ton of moves this week, kind of filling all the gaps. I don't think there's a whole lot of, really, there's not a whole lot of riders or horses available on the carousel anymore. Partially because the week started off with what we thought was going to happen over the last weekend when we did our last episode, and that's Mario Cristobal becoming officially the head coach at the University of Miami, and Manny Diaz finally being told that Mario Cristobal is going to be the head coach at the University of Miami, while he was continuing to do his job all the way up until that day.
Yeah, the Ronald Koeman of college football. It's like, you're our guy.
Until you're not.
Until you're not, and we're going to tell you that you're not, but you're still going to be here, and you're still going to get a paycheck, and then when we find our guy, then you're gone. All I'm saying is, in this case, is that I hope that it was an ironclad, full buyout, nothing to do with a head coaching job, nothing to do with being a DC. I hope the man got paid for being screwed like this.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Manny Diaz was the answer to the University of Miami's college football problems.
No.
But there's a little thing about respect and being treated fairly, and there was pretty much nothing about this that treated him fairly.
Nope.
The Hurricanes had their mindset. Coach Cristobal is going to be their guy, come hell or high water. They ponied up. And they're paying him a lot of money. Apparently, according to multiple reports, that money is coming from funds taken in by the University of Miami health system.
And they ain't happy about that.
No, which is really interesting, as the Hurricanes have made, or at least appear to be trying to make, a commitment to keep up with the Joneses when it comes to practice facilities, athletic buildings, all these other things, including high-paid coaches. I'm not sure. Well, I like the idea of Mario Cristobal as a coach.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's going to ever be able to achieve the expectations that the boosters and fans of the Hurricanes seem to have.
No, but I mean, going back even into the late '80s, we knew what the expectations were at the University of Miami. It's like you're going to win championships, and you're going to be brash, and you're going to be arrogant. Quoting Ron Meyer, rest his soul. But to get out of the ACC, get through the championship game, and be a part of the CFP, that's a 3-step tall order. And I don't know if in this day and age, boosters at universities that are fair to Midland or slightly above average have the patience unless you have instant results and rules be damned. And so I think it's going to be an interesting look to see what happens here with Mario Cristobal, who I know wanted to come home because he wanted to be closer to family, and I know that also at Oregon he tried to turn it into SEC West, meaning SEC West, meaning big physical offensive linemen with large butts, and the same on the defensive side of the ball, trying to keep contained.
He likes big butts and he cannot lie.
No, apparently he cannot, because now you're going to try that same system, that you learned at the University of Alabama down in Miami and try to resurrect them as a national power. I just don't know if the boosters and everyone that's invested in Mario Cristobal has the patience in Mario Cristobal that you're going to need in this 3-step process.
I don't either. I maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they become the new Clemson in the ACC, and all of a sudden step up and dominate. I think there's a long way to go before we're even having that conversation, but we'll have to see, and with time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
We should also add here that Coach Diaz did land on his feet. He is the new defensive coordinator at Penn State, so he will be employed. Fear not.
Mm-hmm.
He will undoubtedly find his way back into the coaching carousel sometime here in the near future. And while we're at it, we should also add that Oregon was not without a coach for long. The Ducks announcing that Georgia defensive coordinator Dan Lanning will be the new guy out in Eugene, the benefactor of Phil Knight and company's money. And this is a hire that I like. This is a hire that I think is going to be an excellent one for the Ducks. Now, granted, Lanning will not take over the program until after Georgia finishes the college football player, which to me speaks a little bit about Dan Lanning, the coach and the person.
Yeah.
I like the move. He's a young guy, 35 years old, really just getting his feet wet in the world of coaching. And his defenses reacted and performed for him very well. His kids at Georgia would run through a wall for him. And I think you're going to see that effect in Eugene. Maybe not I don't know if he's the guy that makes them a college football playoff team every year, but I think they're going to be competing for it.
Couple of names that were attached to this job. I know Chip Kelly's name went back into the wood chipper on this one. It didn't make any sense to me about going back to your ex in that case. Kalani Sitake was mentioned from BYU. You had Cal's Justin Wilcox was a part of it too, but you had you now have an athletic director who goes with a first-time head coach. And here's his dossier for those of you that aren't familiar. Pitt is a grad assistant. Arizona State is a recruiting coordinator. Sam Houston is a D-back coach, recruiting coordinator. Memphis linebackers coach, recruiting coordinator, and was a part of Nick Saban's staff in 2015 as a GA. So once again, there's your Nick Saban coaching tree and the depth of field that Lanning has. And I think that, he's been at Georgia since 2018, linebackers coach before being promoted to DC in 2019. So this is someone who in 13 years has gotten to this particular point where he's looked at to be a top level Power 5 head coach. You now have the opportunity to do that in the Pac 10, 12, 14, and you get to do it with the resources of Phil Knight and be their own wardrobe and athletic lab. And so I think that this is an interesting mix, and I think it'll be interesting to see how Lanning responds in his first head coaching job. Does he take everything in stride? How does his personality change? Does it change? And I think that this will be the first big test for him as a top line guy, as a football CEO and head football coach at the age of 35.
Everybody that I've talked to that has spoken with him or has interacted with him says he had future head coach in the making written all over him. So I wish him luck. And I should also add here that you might enjoy this little tad bit of irony. His first game as a head coach will be September 3rd, 2020 in the Chick-fil-A Kickoff Classic here in Atlanta versus the University of Georgia Bulldogs, his former team.
Hashtag irony. And you want to go one step further, just to give you a little bit of an offshoot. Oregon's going to be coached in the Alamo Bowl by interim coach Brian McClendon, who played at Georgia and was a part of the staff from 2007 to 2015.
That is correct. And I know this because I wrote a story about it today at work. A couple other coaching moves on the carousel. The University of Virginia, they have a new head coach. His name is Tony Elliott, the former offensive coordinator for the Clemson Tigers. Good move there, I think. Elliott's name has been bandied around over the last few seasons. He kind of took his time, much like several other coaches in this year's carousel, and waited for a spot that he really thought fit him. And I think this might be a good fit for him up in Charlottesville at the University of Virginia.
Yeah, and remember that Bronco Mendenhall was asked to stay on, and he's like, nope, I'm done. And so I give Bronco Mendenhall a lot of credit for knowing when it's time to turn the lights out in the office. And so now that Tony Elliott is moving from Clemson to Virginia, it presents to me an interesting question about what's going on at Clemson. Is Elliott leaving at the right time for him? Does he sense that the offensive talent coming in and the offensive talent that's there is not at the same level it has been in years past? And I mean, all you can do, I mean, if you want to look at it in an empirical sense, you can sit there and just look at the straight up numbers and go that something is wrong. And so Elliott leaves, goes to Charlottesville. I think it's a good break for both sides. Dabo can now look for an offensive coordinator to try to turn things around from this past season. And now you've got Elliott heading to Charlottesville for his next chapter too.
Yeah, and speaking of coordinators at Clemson University, the defensive coordinator, Brett Venables, is the new head coach at the University of Oklahoma. We kind of knew that was coming when we recorded our last episode. It was made official over the weekend. Venables, another coach who has had opportunities here over the past few seasons, but has ties to the University of Oklahoma, and they were pretty darn excited to get him.
I just had this vision of Billy Sims screaming "Boomer" in the back of a room, waiting for the other half to come from the other part of the room.
And for you youngins who don't know who Billy Sims is, look him up. It'll be
that's your Google search for today, kids.
It'll definitely be worth your time. But the bigger picture question here, and you mentioned it just a minute ago when we were talking about Tony Elliott, is what does this mean for Clemson? You lose your offensive coordinator, you lose your defensive coordinator, the athletic director moves on. The only big name person there left standing in the athletic department right now is Dabo Swinney. And the Tigers, for the first time in a long time, were not ACC champs and were not in the college football playoff. Are we talking about a major rebuild here?
I don't know if major rebuild is what we're looking at. I just think that sometimes the message gets stale, and the best thing to do is probably just to separate. And maybe we hit that point with Elliott and Clemson. So I think this is going to be an interesting hire. It's going to be an interesting hiring process for Clemson. What kind of individual does Dabo Swinney look for in his new offensive coordinator? And I think that for me is the question in all of this. Who are you looking for? What's their game? What makes them, the offensive coordinator that you wanted to bring into Clemson? And is that personnel on hand, or is it going to be portaling and transferring and bringing in that right kind of individual for an immediate return? So I think that this is a very important hire for Dabo Swinney because he hasn't had one like this. He hasn't had to have a hire in this manner in quite some time with all the questions surrounding it. Usually it's an assistant coach that wants to move on, be a head coach under normal circumstances. Hey, Clemson had a great season, made it to the CFP, or they won something, and now coaches move on in that natural progression. This is a different animal. This is a key hire for Dabo Swinney coming up here in the offseason.
Yeah, it's interesting because both Alabama and Georgia, two of the quote-unquote playoff elite teams, go through coordinators almost every season. Nick Saban loses his offensive and defensive coordinator almost every season. Usually the head coaching jobs is somewhere else. Kirby Smart has kind of gone through the same thing. The coaching tree for both of those programs gets bigger by the day, and they're connected. This is the first time Clemson's had to go through it. Elliott and Venables have both been there for years. And the Tigers have had a sustained run of success. It's going to be really interesting to see where they go from here. And sticking to the ACC before we move on to some other things, another head coaching hire in the ACC, Texas A&M defensive coordinator Mike Elko, your new head coach, taking over for David Cutcliffe at Duke.
And I think that along those same lines, you have it's time. And I think that we saw that with Duke and Coach Cut. And you need a special kind of individual to go into that dynamic at Duke, know what your limitations are, know the kind of student athlete that you can bring in there, and know what your level of success can be. And notice I said student athlete. I know a lot of cases in the NCAA, you probably could reverse that and say athlete student.
Athletes that dabble with student things.
Yeah. Here you're talking about student athletes. And so I think it takes a very rare individual to be at a Cal, to be at a Stanford, to be at a Duke, to be at these institutions because of what you're dealing with and because that there's a greater and grander plan attached. So it takes a rare individual to want to come and interview, takes an even rarer individual to want to sit there and say, I want this kind of a challenge.
Yeah, good on them. We'll see how that goes. And so concludes our discussion on this year's carousel. Almost every job is filled, like we said. But before we wrap up the show, a couple other nuggets here. Army-Navy played this weekend. Mm-hmm. Excellent game, I should add.
Always is.
It always is. If nothing else, you should watch it just to see what the uniforms both teams look like, because this year's was just as good as the last few years. A really good game and a surprise winner as Navy comes out with a win. Did you get to see any of this?
No, I was attached to the high school football state championships, but one of the things that we always watch this for is the pageantry and the deeper meaning and what it means to sing second and what it means after this game is over, where a lot of these folks who are on this field, they go on to higher powers and higher things like protecting the country that they're playing in front of and bashing in their brother's brains for 3.5 hours. It is on my list for going to take in at least once.
Yeah, I'd really like to see it in person too.
Whether it's as a member of the media covering it or just as a civilian, just to kind of see what's going on. But no, it is definitely a bucket list item. It should be a bucket list item for anyone that loves college football and understands what Army-Navy means.
And this year, the Commander-in-Chief trophy gets shared because Army beat Air Force, but Air Force beat Navy, and Navy beat Army.
Nothing like a three-way dance for the Commander-in-Chief trophy, yeah?
So everybody gets a little bit of a piece of the puzzle. Good for them. Great atmosphere. It was a lot of fun to watch. Navy really toughed it out. Army had the ball late in the game with a chance to score and get the win, but they stopped Army quarterback Christian Anderson 1 yard short on a 4th and 4 play with $1:27 left in the game at midfield. Game over. Navy sits on it. They get the win. Mm-hmm. Love to see that.
Yeah.
And the last little bit here is we have our Heisman Trophy winner. His name is Bryce Young, and he quarterbacks the University of Alabama. And he's he's not technically a freshman, so I can't really say that. But it was his first year lining up under center in a college football game, and he walks away with the biggest trophy the entire season, the biggest individual trophy.
Not a surprise. And, it's once again, you didn't have the perfect candidate, have the perfect season, putting up astronomical numbers, because you look at C.J. Stroud, Ohio State stubbed their toe. You look at Bryce Young stubs his toe, but you have the team make the CFP, and I think that's your measuring stick. It's like, okay.
Man, the kid absolutely freaking carved Georgia up like a Thanksgiving turkey.
Right. And so you come out of a moment the week before, rebound the way that you did, proving that Alabama needed to be in the CFP, especially after beating Georgia the way that they did. And you look at the other teams in the CFP, and I don't think there's anyone that could have competed for the award. Although Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan, if you like big folks, 99 from UGA and Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan probably would have gotten a lot of votes there as well. But
Will Anderson from Alabama got a lot of votes. He ended up second place.
Yeah. So the pride of Dutchtown High School, by the way, here in our footprint. But you get a lot of folks, and it's good to see the defensive guys getting some love here as well.
Yeah, I really like to see it. It's a little bit of a popularity contest.
A little bit?
I understate. As most of these type of things are wont to be. But if push comes to shove and you look at the guy who performed the biggest on the biggest stage, it's hard to argue against anything that Bryce Young did.
Yeah.
It's also an award that's handed out before the college football playoff. So we don't know if he's going to lead his team to championship glory yet again for Alabama. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. The Crimson Tide square off with Cincinnati on New Year's Eve in the semifinal.
Mm-hmm.
It could happen. But congratulations to him. And the scary thing is he's coming back for another year.
Yeah. Yeah.
A year where the Crimson Tide will be reloading.
Yeah. So it will be Tuscaloosa will be an interesting place, but not a surprise that Bryce Young ended up getting the hardware and having to hold it with two hands.
And with that, John, I think we have finished up our discussion for the week. I can't think of anything.
I believe you are correct, sir, when it comes to the rest of what's been going on with the Heisman Trophy with Bryce Young. He won the Maxwell on Thursday night, given the college football's Player of the Year. Joins Tim Tebow, Sam Bradford, Mark Ingram, and Lamar Jackson as the only sophomores to win the Heisman Trophy. You get the fifth instance that a school has had two consecutive Heisman winners because of Devontae Smith winning it last season. So there's a little bit of history attached with Bryce Young, but he'll be back for one more year, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out at the end of this season and next year in Tuscaloosa.
If he were to win that award, he would be the first person to win consecutive Heisman trophies since Archie Griffin back in 1970, almost 72 and 73, I believe.
Yep, all the way back then. So you get your double, and that's probably what's going to be chasing it.
Indeed. Time to say goodbye, John. I think we're done.
Goodbye, John. I think we're done.
That puts a wrap on this week's episode of The Review. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. For OSG Nelson, I am OSG Phil. And for the entire Online Sports Guys team, we thank you for tuning in. Have a great week, everybody. Next week, we'll be back with a little more bowl talk and anything else that's on our minds. Have a great week and enjoy. Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Review. You can find this and past shows by downloading the OSG Sports app on your mobile device. And enjoy all of our shows from the OSG Sports Podcasting Network. The OSG Sports app is up and running. Download it today.